Village. Happy autumn. I thought that since it's been a while since I've done an update video about my work and how I'm doing and how those two things interact with you and how you're doing, that I would invite you to just grab a cup of tea. I've got my new autumnal thrifted mushroom mug and settle in and we can get cozy. I'm not going to script this and I might stumble a little bit, but I want to talk about a permaculture principle. There's many of them. If you don't know, permaculture is an ecological design process for creating resilient systems based on patterning from what we would call nature, ecology. And it has a set of principles that are quite extensive and often apply to things besides just the landscape. And one of those principles is accept and respond to feedback. An important principle in our interpersonal lives, in our families, in our friendships, in our work lives, and also in our relationships with our body. Our body is this bigger body, earth thing that we live on and are expressions of and a part of. And as a way of responding to unpredictability and change. So I want to talk about some of the different feedback I've been getting from my body, from the world, from my business, and sort of where that's leaving me. And I want to start by saying one of the pieces of feedback I get a lot is that I'm much more honest in my personal life about things I struggle with, and I'm a little bit peppy and optimistic in my professional life in a way that sometimes makes people feel disconnected from me. I certainly did not grow up thinking that sharing about personal struggles in the workplace was a safe or good idea, and it's been a years-long shift for me to not only integrate those things for myself, but to really champion a boundaried and respectful integration of those things in the workplace, right? It's not okay to expect people to divulge or disclose things in a workplace that are deeply personal, but it is okay and I think great to allow our work to be in service of our struggles as well as our triumphs, because those are the things that connect us to each other, as corny as that sounds. So that's one piece of feedback I received. And so on that note, I wanted to tell you all about the last 10 days. I've struggled a lot in the last 10 days and, on and off for the last few years. And one of the things I've struggled with was totally unexpected these past 10 days. And some of the other things are things that come and go, and a bigger place I'm at in my life and in relationship to my business. Someday I'll tell you the whole story of the life of my business. Some of you know it. But right now, I am struggling to be able to work enough hours with enough, not only energy, but executive function, cognitive function, to see my launches through, to see my marketing through, and to make sure that I'm actually finishing things that I start in a way that gets my services to the people who need them and also makes me a living. And it's been really hard. It's hard, and it's hard because I feel like I shouldn't talk about it to my village, to my people, I don't like the word audience. I enjoy performing, but that is for the stage. And when I'm offering work rather than art, I'm not thinking of it as being offered to an audience, even though art is a type of work. Does that make any sense? In the work I do around sustainability, I think of it as contributing to a community. And that's why I call you my village. Not because I own the village, but because that's sort of the scale at which I actually think I'm wired to operate. And I'm trying to do that, even though we're on the internet. And we're in this strangely both globalized and isolated world. 10 days ago, I was accepting sudden feedback from one of my new chickens that the fencing I had put around the chicken run was not fine enough mesh for her because she kept escaping. She's about this big. I thought she was going to be about this big. That looks really big on screen. I, it's normal chicken sizes. I'm not homing gigantic dinosaur-sized chickens, although that would be very cool. And they are dinosaurs, chickens. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Very cool. Their feet really give them away. So I was responding to this very immediate feedback of animal escaping safety into the part of the hill where the coyotes and the bobcats and the eagles and the hawks and the owls all hunt, which would not be a safe place for her to be. Her food's not there. The predators are there. So we want her in the run until at least she gets big enough to safely range a little bit. And so I was spending all of that next day having completely pivoted, it's a word I'm going to talk about a lot here, to reconstruct the chicken run with a finer weave mesh called half-inch hardware cloth, which is not cloth. It's very, very, very springy metal. And I pushed too far past when I needed to stop for lunch, which is another piece of feedback. And content warning for eye injury here. The last piece of hardware cloth that I was installing, which was a triangle, so I had clipped all the edges with tin snips, meaning they were raw and spiky, sprang into my uncovered right eyeball. Now, I almost always wear eye protection, which is probably why this hasn't happened in years of farming and working in tinkering and working with power tools. But it was foggy and I couldn't see well enough in the corner that I was working in, and I had put my sunglasses up onto my head. I immediately knew that I hadn't blinked fast enough and it had gone into my eye. I came in, called the nurse practitioner on call, did all the things, went to the urgent care, went to the emergency room, talked to many doctors, then on the weekdays saw an actual doctor who gave me very different feedback than the other doctors had given me about what was actually going on with my eye. And so it's just been a week of pivoting and recovery. And I was kind of startled at how systemic my reaction was physically. I was just exhausted. You know, we had the smoke coming in from the fires in the north. We're safe in terms of currently there's no fires here, knock wood, but the smoke makes it impossible to take the dog out. So it was just a week of these pieces of feedback of the unpredictability of the climate really coming home, the unpredictability of my body compared to other bodies that might have been able to go right back to work after impaling their eye. Although, why do we live in a world where we've created an economic system where that's expected? Yeah, and I've just been really demoralized in a way because I already live with disabilities, and I'm happy to share more about what those are, but they are what's called dynamic disabilities, which means that unlike, say, like a limb difference or an amputation or a fixed mobility issue, say always needing to use a walker but that works for you, dynamic disabilities, their manifestation or their symptoms, if you want to call them symptoms, I do call them symptoms, not everybody does, they change. Their severity changes, their quality changes, and it isn't always predictable. Sometimes people have clear cycles or clear triggers. So like people with migraines, sometimes we know, I'm a person with migraines, sometimes we know what's going to trigger a migraine. But I have other disabilities where I don't know what's going to trigger it, because sometimes it's just the amount of stimulation and sometimes it's specific things. There's a neurological endocrine thing going on in my body that I cannot control. I can impact, but I can't always tell how I'm impacting it. So how do I interpret that feedback? It's taking me years, and it's never going to be clear because it changes all the time. One of the things that changes is my cognitive function. So right now it's high. I tried to film this video yesterday. I got 3 words in and I couldn't think of anything to say. So extremely volatile and changeable, like neurology, basically, and therefore abilities in the world. And it was interesting to have an acute injury this last week and to even then think, well, I'm so tired of having to rest all the time when I don't want to, when I want to be expressing myself and creating things and working and playing and dating and taking care of my animals and gardening, I really don't want to rest any extra. There's this huge push from a lot of the political circles that I'm in to really idolize rest as a resistance to capitalism. And I believe in that. And some of us don't get a choice. We have to rest, and it doesn't make us feel better. And that is incredibly depressing. So, in the context of this injury, responding to the feedback, including the feedback, break for lunch earlier than you think you should, and wear eye protection, which I'm sharing with all of you, that we've had to change the date for the permaculture workshop that I was going to teach this coming weekend. And that's the right decision. It's the right pivot. But it really brought up a lot for me about how often I have to pivot what is going on, what I'm offering through my business, because my body has an unexpected change that I can't predict. Over the summer, I had the absolutely I'm so grateful experience of, for about a month in July, feeling physically the best I have felt in about 5 years, 6 years. And I think that there are some reasons for that. Intensive physical therapy for over a year that I've worked very hard at and have to continue every day. That includes both strength training and cardio protocols that don't look anything like normal exercising. They have to be graded and adaptive to immediate feedback and delayed feedback. I have a delayed post-exertion set of symptoms. And so the calculus of that is ongoing and impossible, but I do it. I spend a lot of energy on that, and I spend a lot of time. I cannot forego that. Same with cooking and eating in certain ways. Same with taking certain medications at certain times. Same with resting in certain circumstances. Not doing things late at night. Not drinking alcohol. Just all of these things that I was already doing, but they finally started to help. I got past a tipping point. And if what I just described sounds like a full-time job, it is. It doesn't pay very much, though. In fact, it costs a lot of money to be disabled. In the context of all of that, I've had this really strange experience of being terrified that I felt better. I'm so grateful to be experiencing evidence of the possibility that I could be doing better, because I hadn't seen any evidence that I could feel that good in literally years. And when you don't have the evidence, maintaining the hope feels like a waste of energy. It's not that it's about being like a pessimist. It's like, I don't have the energy to keep striving for a thing that seems completely unrealistic. I need to figure out how to take care of myself where I am. So having that evidence was extremely hopeful, but it was also terrifying because I was not expecting to feel that well. And it could go away at any moment. Imagine, if you will, the primary function you do at your job. So for me, it is teaching / facilitating / coaching / mentoring, and farming, gardening, doing the physical stuff. Although I've shifted the business away from that, as you may have seen, because of my disabilities. But for about 2-3 years, the brain fog and the cognitive symptoms were so intense that I could not reliably teach. Even on Zoom, even not having to show up in person to teach or do anything physical, I couldn't do it. I tried some last year and it worked sometimes, but mostly it didn't work. And it would cause repercussions where I couldn't get out of bed for a week after teaching for an hour. That means that people for that workshop that I teach for that hour would need to pay so much money for me to cover the time that I had to recover from it that it becomes inaccessible to people. And also, I don't want to feel so terrible that I have to be in bed for a week after teaching for an hour. It's not worth it. So I hadn't been teaching very much, and that was a huge blow. Teaching, facilitating, mentoring, it's part of how I feel like I express myself and offer my skills and things I've spent a lot of time building, and how I support other people. And it's a creative practice, and it's a problem-solving practice, and I don't feel wholly myself without it. So as I was starting to feel better, I was also starting to try out teaching more, and it was going okay. A lot of the stuff around teaching, I was not able to be consistent or reliable about. I was getting videos up late, things that I feel really embarrassed about, right? Like appearing flaky, but actually it's these pieces of feedback that are pivots every time in my body that I don't expect, and pivots in the environment that we don't expect, right? Suddenly it's too hot and I can't go film a video for you all because it's 95 degrees outside and one of my conditions is susceptible to heat. So I'm trying to create a consistent, reliable presence in my work while experiencing no amount of consistent, reliable anything in my body. I have other amazing things that I experience in my body, but consistency and reliability are not them. So I was feeling better and I thought, I think maybe this means I could teach for more than an hour and a half, or maybe I could teach a full day workshop, which is a hope I haven't dared to let myself touch in years. And the terror was I I can't predict feeling good any more than I can predict feeling bad. I can't predict whether I'm going to be well enough in the amount of time it takes to share about and market a workshop to actually teach on the day of the workshop. I want to do things for you and with you that require planning in advance, and my body doesn't want me to plan in advance. I have no idea how to successfully run a business that helps you and feeds me in that context. And I'm iterating and I'm trying, but it's really hard. I'm really struggling. I could use your help. That feels like a weird thing to say, but if you can share about my work, it makes a big difference. If you have needs that you think could be supported by my work and you can hire me, I no pressure. I don't ever want to market from a place of scarcity or desperation, because that's not like my work is sustainable design, and that is not a foundation for sustainable anything. It's not a foundation for a sustainable relationship between us. It's not a foundation for a sustainable life design or garden design or organization design for you, which are the three things that I help people design to be more sustainable, resilient, innovative. And maybe that's what I should say here, which is getting the feedback externally and internally that I've pivoted way too much. And that makes, whatever too much means, and that makes me seem way less reliable than I want to seem. And that makes my business seem way less clear than I want it to be. And that makes what you can hire me for not as obvious as it should be. That's really painful for me to know, because I can't do anything about the physical side of it. But also, part of my creativity is I love to ideate. New ideas are so exciting for me. I feel physically nourished by coming up with ideas, which is what I really want you to hire me to help you with, right? There are people who are researchers and they will get you the data that you need to do design work. And there are people who are about behavior change and implementation. And I do some of that. I really like that stuff. But my absolute sweet spot wheelhouse is assessing the needs, values, and problems and coming up with ideas that we can try out and coming up with creative ways to then try them out. And I do that in the realm of gardening and farming and landscape design. Honestly, I don't know why we have this extreme distinction between indoors and outdoors in our particular Western society, but all of those things I can also apply to your inner house or space or, tent or whatever you're hanging out in that you want to work better for you. But yeah, there's the physical space design, place-based design part of what I do, and I do that one-on-one, and I do it with schools and organizations and teams. And then there's the organizational sustainability, and that means also organizations that don't suck to work for, part of what I do. And then there's working with strategic and life visioning, and that is with organizations and individuals. So people have referred to it as life coaching when it's with individuals, but I'm not really a coach. I'm a facilitator, and I have a process that I facilitate with you. It's a design process to make your life meet your needs better. And the ideation and the planning and the mapping of that, and the hearing and the getting to the heart of what you need and what you long for, whether it's in your garden, your organization, your strategic vision for your company or your life. And I really love that work. It's the same work I've been doing the whole time, right? When the business was called Index for the Next World, the umbrella hub of the business included a lot of the narrative parts of sustainable design that I do. And that's included in all of this, right? It hasn't really changed. It's just gotten clearer, if anything. But I'm scared that it feels like you don't know what I do or how it can help you, even though I've been working so hard to communicate that for the last 3 years. And that's not anybody's fault. I'm not sure that the consistency and the reliability that I so value, even if I was at peak health, certainly I would be better at them. But they take energy for me, right? Ideation takes almost no energy. I can do it when I feel awful. Sometimes I can't do anything else, keep up with email, know what time it is. But it is really interesting to get the feedback from ourselves about what is easy and why do we think that means it's not valuable, right? I find idea generation really easy. I love it. I want to help people with it. So this is me rambling about the unpredictable feedback of my body. And I think a lot about how the world that we live in is experiencing volatility and unpredictability, weather-wise, ecology-wise, earthquake-wise, obviously socioeconomically, that we're in for a lot more unpredictability. And it seems like maybe the feedback is that I'm receiving, there is no avoiding unpredictability. It is a waste of my energy to try to create an incredibly predictable or reliable business. It won't help me because that's not my experience in my body, but it also won't help you because the world I'm trying to help you design for is becoming more and more unpredictable. At the heart of my work is this question of how do we create and respond to change? How do we create the worlds that we need now, given the amount of change happening that we can't control, and given the changes that we want to see in our homes, our gardens, our communities, our workplaces, ourselves. So soon, I'll be sharing with you the new website for Next World Design Co. Sustainable design for your garden, your organization, or your strategic visions. It's the same work. I'll be offering each of those things one-on-one or with your company or organization or team. And I love this work so much. I've been doing it for a long time. I want it to get to the people who need it. And I want to figure out how to do that without requiring a level of predictability or consistency or what used to be called professionalism, that my disabilities, my body, my brain, and also this planet in the state that we've got it and put it in right now, they just don't allow for. So some thoughts I'm having about how I might try that is actually to book out clients really far in advance, but not very many, because I can do the client work when I don't feel well. But the booking and the marketing and the selling, that's a lot harder for me to do when I don't feel well. So if you know someone who would like to be a garden design client, would like to have a professional development workshop series with me at their team, organization, or company, or would like me to facilitate for either them individually or their board or staff retreat a strategic visioning process, and that can be for your life, it can be for your company, but it's about needs and values-based design thinking, giving us true sustainability, accessibility, and innovation, not the sort of buzzword versions of those things. How are we designing a plan that actually embodies our values? A garden, an organization, a company, a team that actually is mapped from a sustainable ecology, right? A sustainable ecosystem. Organizations have ecosystems. You can map them the same way you can in the garden. So all of that to say, I guess I'm asking for your input, your feedback. Not even, if you want to help, that's great. And the ways you can help are, you can share about my work. You can ask me questions about my work. You can book a free session with me, honestly, to chat, to see if any of this would be helpful for you at your home garden or your school or work garden, or on your work team or your organization or board, or as an individual life design, strategic design mentor client, which is sort of like coaching. But again, it's not coaching. I facilitate you through a very specific supportive process, creative and pragmatic, to do this visioning and planning and ideating. So if any of that sounds like something that you're interested in, please reply to this email. You don't have to do anything else. I will reach back out to you. Or if you know someone who you think would really enjoy chatting with me or that I could help. One of the biggest things about experiencing the severe loneliness of disability is not just that I'm not getting contact, but that my offerings are just stagnating in the corner. It's so corny to say that I love helping people, but I actually think most of us do to some degree. And if we don't, it might be because we're burnt out, because people have been taking without permission or we've overgiven. But fundamentally, as ecological beings, right, whether it's a tree or a chicken or a human, there are inputs and outputs. And anytime those flows get cut off, the connections between agents in the ecosystem get thinner or non-existent, and then the whole system becomes less resilient. That's really at the heart of a lot of what I teach, and a lot of the design that I do is the visual mapping of that exact pattern. The dog is snoring. So not getting to put my output anywhere, not getting my work to people who need it, as well as not receiving the input of feedback, whether that's in the form of critique or confirmation that my work is helpful, or people signing up for things, right? Like numbers, participation, enrollment, or money that I can use to then fund my garden and grow some food. Either of those flows, in or out, getting interrupted, the feedback or the offering, it is ecologically devastating to us as creatures and to me. So anything that we can do to connect those things back up, that you can do to help me connect those things back up, that I can do to help you connect them back up, that's what I'm passionate about. Building a world where those connections between ecological entities, centers of being, are numerous, abundant, resilient, and tended to. In the face of a system and a society that is hell-bent on separation and scarcity, that's the work. That's what I have to help with. I just want to be able to do my work. So this is, I guess, a request for more feedback and more places for me to give my offerings. If that inspires you at all or connects with anything you're struggling with, whether it's about not getting the inputs that you need or not having anywhere to share your gifts, let me know. Let's have this be a conversation. You don't have to hire me for anything to tell me that you resonated with something that I said. I want to connect to you. Connection is ecological. Connection is sustainability. I can draw you a map of exactly why and how, but I bet you believe me when you hear that. I'll talk to you soon.